Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're going to talk getting started with Warhammer Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, and today we're going to take a look at the Nighthaunt and how to get started with the Quicksilver Dead sub-faction of the army. In this video, we're going to go through, talk about what the Quicksilver Dead sub-faction does for us, what it gives on the tabletop. We'll then look at some units we can grab first to start off our Quicksilver Dead army. We'll then look at some other units we can potentially bring in to give some variation to the army and bring some other things to the table. But also, just in general, we'll show you a little sample army list of how you can put this all together at the end of the video to give you some ideas and some inspiration to create your own Quicksilver Dead armies, or indeed copy ours if that's what you wish to do. So with that all said, let's talk about the Quicksilver Dead. So first of all, it's a Nighthaunt sub-faction. We lose none of the Nighthaunt specific rules for taking this sub-faction, which is cool. So this means we're going to get things like Aura of Dead, Ethereal, Disc Corpora, Vanishing Phantasms, Frightful Touch, and Wave of Terror across the whole army. Now, in addition to this, we are going to get the cool ability where ward saves cannot be taken against attacks made for wounds caused from Dreadscythe Harridan units from the Quicksilver Dead. This is pretty cool. Like, turning off wards is really big. There is a lot of armies in the game, including other Nighthaunt, Death armies, potentially a lot of Chaos armies, especially Nurgle, even some Stormcast armies and other armies as well, and some of the more powerful units, looking at Cities and Phoenix Guard for an example, that have ward saves they rely on to really make those units hard to shift. Dreadscythe Harridans can definitely be buffed, and we'll talk about them in just a second, but this is a really cool benefit to a cool unit to have as a central focus for the army. Of course, alongside this, Dreadscythe Harridans do become battle line in the Quicksilver Dead sub-faction. And so, looking at a hero to start us off with, I really like the Krulgast Cruciator for the army. Now, it is important that he does have some reach on his attacks, but also he has a ranged attack, which is the most important thing. So 12-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, Rend 2, Damage 1 is really important when we start talking about how the Dreadscythe Harridans work. He's also got the cool ability called Empowered Through Excruciation, where if this unit is within 12 inch of any terrified unit, you subtract 1 from the damage inflicted to a minimum of 1 by each successful attack that targets a friendly Nighthaunt unit wholly within 12 inch of him. So he's really good at making our Nighthaunt units harder to shift, and he's got some shooting attacks. And we'll explain why that is a useful thing to have when you've got Dreadscythe Harridans on the table. So, Dreadscythe Harridans, what do we get when we take these models on the table? First of all, we're going to get a 4+ save, 1 wound ethereal model. They're going to have 4 attacks, each at 3s and 4s, no rend and damage 1. Now, Murderous Bloodlust allows them to add 1 to hit wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by this unit if it was within 6 inch of any enemy models that have any wounds allocated to them, or it is within 6 inch of any enemy units that have had models slain in that turn. This is where shooting comes into it, because it really does play off to do a little bit of shooting to then charge units in. This means you're not having to waste one of your units not getting these bonuses in the combat, so having some shooting alongside this army is really useful. Harrowing Shriek as well allows you to subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by enemy units within 3 inches of this unit. If this unit has also made a charge move in the same turn, it's really cool when we consider that Nighthaunt have retreat and charge across their whole army, so you're almost always guaranteed to get that effect. One more of this unit can be a Slasher Crone, and you can add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the Slasher Crone as well to get 5 attacks on that model. So some pretty cool stuff. They're going to get all their Wave of Terror benefits, which potentially can make up for the lack of rend on the unit, but also, like, this is where the shooting heroes come in. Just having that little bit of shooting in the army definitely helps those Harridans get the most out of their rules. And so, looking at other units to bring in, well, we talked about shooting, so why not look at a shooting unit? I think a Craven Throne Guard are an excellent addition to this particular army, as they're going to give us some extra range firepower. 12-inch range, 2 shots, 4s and 4s, Rend 1, Damage 1. It's nothing to write home about, but all they're aiming to ever do is do a wound. And if they do a wound, they're giving +1 to hit and wound to our Banshees. That's all they've got to do, is just a wound. They've got Spectral Bolts where they ignore the cover, and they can have a couple of cool extra things where they can add 1 to their attacks for the champion, and the Standard Bearer can allow them to do some extra rallies on a 5+ instead of the 6, which is really nice. Other than that, there's not much to them. They're bringing some bit of shooting to the army, and another unit that can potentially bring some shooting as a hero is having the Tomb Banshee. Her Piercing Shriek is now a ranged attack with D3 shots, and she potentially has a rend of -2, and damage 1. Once again, just another cheap hero that can bring in some shooting. The benefit to her is she's got, the ability of a hero, so she's got 12-inch range for her commands. I think sort of mixing up and having a few of these characters around to do a little bit of spot damage is definitely a useful thing. She also can benefit from a command point as well and use her own command points. Craven Throwing Guard, while they can, if your champions ever snipe, they obviously lose that ability. Now, another unit, I think, that just sort of blends in with the theme of what we're going. We've got lots of Banshees in the army. So, Mermaid Banshees really only bring theme to the list, but I do think they look aesthetically pleasing to have alongside Harridan's, Tomb Banshees, and all of that. And so, Dreadsoft Harridans have some decent rend in combat, which is really nice. So, they're going to have guaranteed rend on the table, but they're also going to give us some magical defense as well, which this army, at the current point of what we've talked about, lacks because we don't actually have any wizards. Alongside the Mermaid Banshees, Chain Rustport are just a great unit to bring in. They're cheap, they've got bodies on the table. They're a great way to get some bodies on your table for your Nighthaunt army. In comparison to like Dreadsoft Harridan's 10 models for 160 points, for 50 points less, you're getting the same amount of models. You do have a worse save on the Chain Rusp of only a 5-up, but they can get some nice benefits in there as well. So there's definitely some options to play around with if you're wanting to try and get a few more bodies and have a few expendable units to either hold objectives, grab objectives off your opponent, provide some screens and stuff like that for your game. Chain Rusp are an excellent addition to your Nighthaunt force to do just that. And so here we have our sample army list for the Quicksilver Dead. Mortal Realm Chamon, the narrative for the Quicksilver Dead is really cool. They're literally living Quicksilver. I'm painting up my Nighthaunt army as this. It is a cool bit of narrative. Predator's Domain, as always, I think is just a great grand strategy for Nighthaunt. The fact you have retreat and charge on all your units means you can really get the most out of this. You can definitely just retreat and still get into combats and get into advantageous positions to control terrain at the end of the game to guarantee your grand strategy. It's a really, really useful grand strategy with Nighthaunt. For a Triumph, we've gone with Bloodthirsty. We're 25 points under, so there's a good chance we may get it. Normally, +1 to wound is potentially useful, but a lot of our Dreadsoft Harridans, so long as we're doing damage to our opponent's units, are going to have +1 to hit and wound already. So Bloodthirsty to reroll charges, I think, is really useful. There is nothing worse than retreating in charge, and you fail the charge to get back in and then get stuck in no man's land. Definitely not something you want to happen, so getting Bloodthirsty in there for an additional reroll whenever you need it is pretty useful. Now, going into the army list proper, we have our leaders, and our Krulgust Cruciator is our leader. He's going to be our general, and he's going to have the command trait Cloaked in Shadow. This is a really cool command trait, as it allows him to not be targeted by more than one unit with either shooting or combat in any phase of the game. This can definitely help keep the model alive. Lastly, we've got the Light Shard of the Harvest Moon, which I think is one of the better artifacts. While it is only one use only, the fact that you can use this and you can sort of time the rest of your abilities, I think using this correctly and at the right time for +1 attack of melee weapons for all Nighthaunt whole within 12 inch can be a really useful artifact. For that turn where you've got everything in, everything's all nice and bunched up, trying to remove like a key piece of an opponent's army or something like that, a useful artifact to have. We don't have a Tomb Banshee in here, which she could definitely be swapped out for more Craven Throwing Guard if that's what you wish to do. I just like, the variety of models and showing that you can fit that particular model in here. And then for Battle Line, 3 units of 10 Dreadsoft Harridans. I think they work better in 10s. You definitely could make 1 unit of 20, but it would leave you with a few less bodies on the board and a few less, pieces to play around with. 2 units of 5 Craven Throwing Guard. These I do like as separate units rather than 110, because you can have them in different places to ensure you're just trying to get that 1 chip point of damage to let your Harridans get into combat. Everything is wrapped up inside a battle regiment with Nighthaunt, and Nighthaunt, while being a 1-drop army, because of the Vanishing Phantasm's allegiance ability, you can still take advantage of the deployment phase, taking units off the table that are already deployed on the table, and really sort of messing around with how your opponents laid out their plans to take on particular units. All in all, as I said, this is 975 points out of 1,000, no allies, no reinforced units, 51 wounds on the table, and a 1-drop army as mentioned. If you're getting into Nighthaunt with the new book, let us know what you're thinking of down in the comments below. And so that is the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and drop us a comment, let us know what you thought about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine little community here at Sinful Gaming, you can come and join our Discord server, which is linked down in the video's description. Lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so either by supporting us on Patreon or YouTube members, both of which are linked down in the video's description, or you can indeed go grab some merch on our Ko-fi store. We've got some cool Sinful Gaming dice, which you'll see used on the channel, down for sale in there. Lastly, as a special thanks to everyone who supports on Patreon and YouTube members, we'd like to give you all a shout out on every video we do that you support. So a thank you to our Patreons, Christian Weir, James, Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowe, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nielsen, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Dynet226, and Derek. And a shout out to our YouTube members, and a massive thank you as well to Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Villy, Lockloric, the Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Sean Scott, and Pink Nico Fire. Lastly, a massive thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to Xmorphic, who has done amazing work in setting up our Discord server and doing amazing work over there. Thank you all for watching once again. Stay safe, everyone. Stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.